This is the skills workshop on communicating the Law Toolkit. So the focus on communicating the Law Toolkit session is to have a participatory communication toolkit for human rights defenders in Papua New Guinea, which we already have. And what participants to take away from the session is a simplified way of understanding laws around child protection, gender-based and sorcery accusation-related violence. Joining us online to facilitate will be Dr. Verena Thomas and Dr. Jackie Kauli from the Queensland University of Technology. Thank you. I'll give it over to Verena and Jackie.
Feel free to unmute yourself and share where you're joining from, who you are, and what you're interested in.
Hello, Verena, Jackie, and Roslyn. I'm Debbie. I'm joining in from the National Judicial Staff Services here at Waikani. So basically, it's my...
Oh, you've just gone to mute. Can you unmute yourself again?
Yes, sorry. As I was saying, this is my first time to attend this the Pacific Women Learning Workshop, so I'm looking forward to learning more about the different topics that will be shared during this week. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Who else would like to quickly share?
Are you able to unmute, or is that controlled as well?
No, we can unmute. I'll go.
Okay.
So I'm Nia Harrison. I'm the M&E advisor for Pacific Women. So you've got a lot of us on here, but I'm here to help Tovi. But I'm absolutely delighted because in all of your other presentations, I have never managed to been able to come and attend. So I feel very lucky, and it's wonderful to have Rosalind and all the people there too. Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. Should we move to Rosalind and Umba at the top there?
Okay, I'm Rosalind. I'll be Rosalind from Kuswatin here in Gofa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be co-facilitating with Verena and Jackie. Hope we have shared here will help all of us. And we hope you're enjoying the session as well to the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Riz.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter from Papua Women. I'm happy to join the session. Also, we'll be co-facilitating by the communicating level to keep studying. So, yeah.
Thanks, Umba and Rosalind. Thank you, Umba and Rose. Leilani, is that you? I can't hear you. Umba and Rose, yours back on. I can hear the flights from Goroka in your background. Thank you. You still, I can't still hear you, Leilani. No, Gap? No, still can't hear you. Maybe I move to Jacqueline, and then I'll come back to you. And in the meantime, is that all right? Perfect. Thank you. Jacqueline, are you there? Hello, is Jacqueline there? Yeah, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, I'm Jacqueline, connecting from NJS's Regional Business Self-Service here in London. This is my first time to attend this participatory workshop and it's an opportunity and all the different topics. The morning session has been very interesting, so we're looking forward for the beginning of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Tovi, would you like to introduce yourself, or you've already introduced yourself?
Can you ask them to unmute me?
She might be on.
She might be Yvonne, yes. Ellie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Ellie Webb. I'm from Centre for International Private Enterprise. We work in a lot of different things, primarily women's economic empowerment, but I'm always keen to hear about new toolkits, particularly if it's about translating into lay terms about how to understand legislation around different things. And quite often our beneficiaries have constraints in their own life which are in specific gender-related violence issues that these particular laws surround. And so it's about becoming aware of what resources are out there that we can perhaps share with our partners, stakeholders, beneficiaries, and especially with toolkits.
Because we've got about 40 minutes left. And just to say, this toolkit, I will share a few more thoughts, but it is a number of modules, and there are usually 3 to 4 hour sessions per modules, and groups of communities go through these modules perhaps 1 per week. So it takes 4 weeks to complete the modules, and then there's an evaluation module 2 or 3 months later. So there's a limitation to what we can cover in 40 minutes, but we hope to give you a bit of an understanding, and we're always available as well to chat more about it. So the toolkit was developed some years back because we felt that there was a need for communities to have a better understanding of the laws, in particular after some of the laws relating to children's rights, family sexual violence, and sorcery accusations had changed since 2013. So we worked closely with human rights defenders, such as Rosalind and Umar, with lawyers from Justice, staff from Oxfam, researchers, health officers, to bring together the different knowledge that was available. So people who are working in the community on a daily basis, as well as people who are closely informed with what's going on with the law and the changes that are happening. So the toolkit was developed over 8 months and workshops with participants, essentially. And let me see, I still can't check my screen, so you're missing out on some images, I'm sorry. But basically it has 4 modules. The module 1 is around human rights. Module 2 is family and sexual violence. Module 3 is around children's rights. And module 4 is around sorcery accusation-related violence. So we developed together a series of participatory activities. And I think, and I hope that Rosanna and Umba talk a little bit about that later. Really key is the listening that the facilitators are doing when they're facilitating the activities, and the ability to weave in what they're listening to into the activities, and then monitoring what is coming from the community. So when we were developing this, we kind of worked out 4 large steps or components, and this is for best learning experiences in the community. So the first step was to explore and contextualize. So to give participants an opportunity to just, without being told anything, just to experience thoughts. A bit of the background of the tool, and within that are a number of participatory activities. And these activities then can be mixed and matched, but we always encourage to follow this process because we found that has the maximum impact when it's about learning and experiencing. So that was just a little bit of an introduction to the cool toolkit. I wonder if there are some questions at this point. Otherwise, we are going to have about 3 short activities for you, in particular with a focus on sorcery, accusation-related violence, to just give you a bit of an understanding of what those activities are. Of course, we'll have to shorten them in this session, but we just wanted to also have you go through some of the activities. But are there any questions for now, or any additional thoughts from Becky, Rosalind, or Uma?
Verena, I wanted to ask a question with regards to the proposed audience for this toolkit. What you're saying about the reason or the need, recognised need for people to better understand the laws. Is there a minimum literacy level that's required?
I can throw that to Rosalind and Uma. Not from our understanding, but they might share some experiences with literacy. I think that what we have done in the last year and a half is to look at key influences in the community. So village court magistrates, administrators, women leaders, male leaders. But I'll hand it over to Rosalind and Uma for that question. What have you been experiencing, I think, around literacy?
I'll be the first to respond. For the communicating the toolkit itself, it's been like simplified version where people who are like people who are literate and who are not illiterate eligible for the toolkit itself. It's an explanatory where everybody are able to participate and understand the concept, and also like it's been also translated to a form where the participants or those ones who participate will understand the concept itself.
I can add to Rosalind's one as well too in terms of the literacy. So there are various different levels, I think. So one of the things that Rosalind is doing now is we've trained new facilitators, and one of the co-facilitators or the mentoring that Rosalind is giving is to a person that cannot read or write very well. And so Rosalind is taking her through that to understand this. In terms of the laws, because we do hand out laws to participants, but only when they've gone through the 4 components of what Verena had outlined, and then having them to contextualize what those laws are and understanding them. And if they cannot read them or understand them, then usually there's a focal person or a point where they can go to help them elaborate on it, or Kuswa is usually there to support that if they're in Baroque sort of thing. But we have varying degrees of people that can read or write, but I think the important part is to take them through the experiences of, say, the laws and how they impact on family and how then is that related to the laws. And this team then links that to laws that they have. And I think one part of the activity is where they include that. But they do work with people and train our people that are not necessarily can read or write with read the toolkit, and how then do they facilitate that through experience and with the support of Kuswa, of course.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And just to say, the way we've been running it is we've got about 20 facilitators trained in this at the moment. So there's been quite a lot of, say, quality control in the process. So of course, and I can share the link and all of that to the toolkit. It's accessible, you can have it. But when we're doing a facilitation where we in the end graduate participants with a certificate, and those are taking a bit more time, and we'll take the time, whatever is needed, to get participants to that point. So that's how we've approached it. Are there any other questions?
Can you ask them to unmute, please? Yeah. Unmute. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So did you hear me asking to be unmuted?
No, I didn't hear that.
Okay, great. So I just had a question around the toolkit. Where has it been used so far, and what has been the response? But also I'd like to add, thank you for your patience as we were trying to get through the technical issues. So thank you all for that. So that's my question. Where has the toolkit been used so far, and how's been the response?
Great, so I'll start it off, and then maybe Jackie Uma can add as well. So We've used it mainly in Jimbo and Eastern Highlands, and the toolkit we have currently is focused on the Highlands. And we're currently in the process of adapting it to Milne Bay. So it's been used in those two provinces with key influences mostly. So Uma, would you like to share a little bit about the impact of it that you've seen?
Yeah. We've been facilitating this toolkit since to all the stakeholders and also the stakeholders within the police, especially the Eastern Highlands and Sindhu, like the police court magistrates, and also the leaders within the community leaders and key influencers, and also our corporate persons who are like the human rights defenders on the ground. We educate them on the toolkit so that they also have a fair idea on the laws and penalties, and also referral pathways, so that they were helping others who need help or who are facing, who have been accused, like sorcery accusation, bring them to the service providers and all this. So it's been very effective, and also women, men, and boys also know their rights. Within the toolkits, we have the 30 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So people, when knowing their rights, they start to respect others and all this. It's all about participatory, where everyone participate, even educated or even uneducated. We create it in a way where everyone participated. Yes.
Thanks, Umba. Jackie, do you want to add anything?
With the different places, I suppose with the different places, they've now moved in, they were testing it out in Goroka Urban, then they moved it out to other areas, and I think they're moving now towards Hengenofi and various other areas into the villages and trying to work that out. Oh, the same as well too with the Simbu team, so Kerawagi, Cook, and trying to get the LLGs, but as we can appreciate, there is huge logistical, geographical boundaries that they have to move into, and so I think one of the greatest challenges that the team has is that the core team is about 11 facilitation. If they're to do 3-hour workshops, it's a lot, so it's a lot of pressure on the team to also deliver the work, but also within the different places. One of the things that's coming out now because of the work that they're doing is a lot of requests from different places, and we're just trying to figure out how then do we move forward. And so one part of our program is then advertising to organizations and to see whether organizations would like to have their teams trained up in the toolkit by the 11 that we have, the core team, and so that they can also continue on with that. But yeah, they're moving within the urban centers, but also outside of that to various other local level fields as well.
Right, so yes, we are very interested in hearing for organizations who want to partner, if they want to take it on, if you have groups of people and want facilitators trained, then those materials are available. And if it's outside the Highlands, then there's a bit of contextualization that needs to happen for some of the stories and the activities. All right, well, let's I'll move us forward to one of the activities. I was hoping that we can use the chat function, but has it come on? Let's see, not yet. But it's okay, we're a small group, we can share verbally. All right, this activity is called photo stimulus. Uma, would you like to share?
Okay, thank you. I'll be taking you through photo stimulus, a photo diary, is to explore one's thoughts. Soon, Verena will show you some photos there. But for that, when you see the photos, just want to ask you if you have any thoughts of the photos. Okay. And also, you'll be taking a minute to think about it and write some notes or thoughts on a piece of paper. Verena, photos.
If you haven't got your piece of paper, if you have next to you, grab a piece of paper and really just any thoughts that come to mind. Okay, let me see. I'll play a little bit of music to help you out. Our topic on those activities today is sorcery and accusation-related violence. What we usually do in the community is we will ask any thoughts that people want to share from just experiencing these photographs. Is there anyone here who would like to share their thoughts?
What we see, as I've identified,
This is perhaps a little bit trickier when we're on Zoom and online. We're sitting in a circle in the community.
How men and boys, and even women and girls learn gender.
Any thoughts from anyone?
The gendering process has to be reinterpreted somehow.
Can you unmute?
At every level of the gendering process.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Noise.
And their children.
Sorry, there's a session on the other side of the room, so hopefully you can hear. I'll just be really brief. I just thought the labeling is just something that is the thing that gets all of these photos connected. It's the labeling that starts the violence. It's the labeling that has people feeling alone and they feel like they have no protection. That's what I feel is coming out from the photos that were shared. Thank you.
How they enable their children
Thank you for sharing.
gender relations and roles.
Becky, you have muted, I think.
The extended family.
Are there anybody else that might have thought about something pictures
Also contribute to child
and would like to maybe share what your thoughts are or your initial reactions to the pictures when they were being shown in the session?
I'll share. I don't know whether I'm way off track, but I guess the first picture being the circle with the nugget. My feeling is that must be a grave marking of some sort, and or perhaps actually I don't know what it is, but that was what first came to mind. The music went very emotive for me actually, even before the picture of the woman came up, and I guess what was quite pivotal for me is seeing the young girl. Is almost like she's just had no choice. She's now since been born into this space where she's got a predetermined destiny based on the fact that either that's her mother that she's lost or she's from a family that's already been accused, and so she's been tarred with this brush. Or if she's a child, or an offspring of someone who's been a victim of sensory-related violence, that this child is all of a sudden on her own, with her parents, through no fault of her own, and then you just see that final sign of Sanghamala just hammers home, because it's just something that's just so inconceivable, and yet this is for those of us who are educated enough to know that this should not be something that attracts violence, just that you have now affected this journey of this child who's no more than 6 years old, who essentially, that's what I thought. It's just sort of, how do we make sure that we are protecting these children, so if they are children of victims and staff, or just the severe inequity, and just can't be. But I've got to say, I think the most important picture for me was, is that a grave marking? Is that what that is? That first picture? Or is that something else?
No, it was a creative piece that was one of the photo sessions that we had with a participant, and we talked to them about going out and seeing what in their minds, in their thoughts, represents like a metaphor for sorcery. That sort of okay. And so that was kind of that one. But it was, I think, a beautiful photo that really depicted what was going on, but in an abstract way. I think some of the things that we're trying to teach as well too is the gory details, absolutely yes, but what can we do to trigger the conversations? And the photo gallery brings that out. Because can't get that come back down here. It's sort of like what do they think about that? Yes. Thanks, Ellie. Is there anybody else that would like to maybe share their thoughts around that? Perhaps Deb or Jacqueline? What do you think about it? There's no right or no wrong answer. It is just something that we usually bring out to just start the conversation.
Hello, this is Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Yes. Okay, I'll just share my thoughts on the pictures. For me, when I saw the first picture, I just thought of someone casting a spell, magic, the poison, and then seeing the lady, like she's in fear and pain, and then moving on to the child. The child to me, the first thing that I felt was torture, hardship, and eventually child abuse. And then the last one was to me, I don't know, the first thing that came to my mind was distant relatives, family, and that's my sort of like thoughts about Sangoma and sorcery. It's usually done by someone who's close to you, distantly related to you. So that's like the first thing that stood out when I saw the last picture. Yeah, just like that.
I was wondering whether Uma or Rosalie, perhaps short, just when you do that community gallery session, what are the kinds of things that come up when you have the discussion with participants? Perhaps share a little bit about that, and then we can move on to the next one. Is that okay?
When taking the participants to restaurant photography, some of those participants were frequently visitors, but without realizing the pain that others were feeling, that when we also we like empathy, try to bring the participants to put them into the shoes, into others' shoes, like how do you feel when someone if you are a woman, how would you feel? Someone is trying to knife on you or trying to kill you, how would you feel? And also like the children, with their parents, working because of social abuse, then affects the social. Some of it all talk about what's within their mind. They felt that what is totally wrong. There was from the thing, they also changed, and they were becoming the educators. They talk about social acquisition is not right. No one has the right to take us people like, and they are actually start allocating on this. They come up with their thoughts, what they think, and also say they are students when we take them to this
we also have survivors in the group as well. Some of the serums, like we also have serums from both sides, from the perpetrators and those ones who have been affected. So, like it's kind of learning from the how the survivors are feeling when they're complaints, something that they have not been doing. And also we have also got experience from the perpetrators. So, from there, like they become one team, and then they go out together. They share with others, and like from their experience, like they're trying to help those who have been affected. So they're kind of becoming our focal person as well to report the cases to us again. So, it is very helpful and useful for the participants, especially those ones who have been accused and those ones who have been perpetrators. For the perpetrators, this program has been helping them to be a changed person, and for the survivors, they are seeking help from others because they have this empathy. They are kind of, from the experience that they are sharing, they kind of like gain from the experience that they are sharing, others who have not been experiencing gain empathy for others to, go and help them, support the others who are vulnerable.
Thank you very much, and I'll take it back to you, Verena, but just one of the things I think when Verena was running through very fast the toolkit, one of the things that we try and do within this toolkit workshop is to take them, the participants on a journey. So it's a 3-hour workshop which are designed by our facilitators, Uma and Erico, and the team that are up there. And they take the participants through a journey of understanding. And the first one, the photo gallery one, is the contextualization of that. So triggering their thoughts around the various manifestations of source-resource related violence, and having them think and share those stories. And then they move them to the next component of it. Trying to get them to understand, but also leading them to where the laws and related laws are. So to take us through that one, perhaps I'll give it back to Verena and she can take us to the next one.
Yeah, thanks. I guess the idea is that the photos are broad and abstract enough, but also they trigger certain thoughts. So listening to what people then share in that moment can then inform the next steps and how ready people are to receive information. Because when we started designing the toolkit, one of the key things was that people said, well, human rights, that's like outside, that's from the UN, but what matters is what's happening in the community. So we're trying to start that off in a non-threatening way. We do, of course, have lots of activities. I think we can do one more in the interest of time. So we have a short story, Peter's story. So Rosalind, could I get you to read this one?
Part A or part 2?
Part 1. We only through part 1, I think.
Rose, part 1, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go through it together, with you together. I'm going to start now. My name is Peter, and I am from a small place in Chimbu. In 2012, there was an incident in my village. A small boy fell into the river while fishing. The current was too strong, and he drowned. Later, there was a gathering in the village, and they discussed that the cause of the little boy's death. They discussed about the cause of the little boy's death. After the discussion, they accused his own uncle for practicing sorcery, and this leading to the boy's death. But then that person blamed my uncle for using the sorcery to kill the boy. So they came to my uncle's house.
that you imagine that you are different thoughts and voices in Peter's head. So what are the voices and thoughts saying in support of him pursuing justice? And what are they saying against it? So we have this thought, and this only works if I think we can annotate, which we might be able to. But just to say that this activity is called conscience Ellie. And we do this usually with people standing in two lines across each other. And one side will be saying the thoughts in Peter's head. You can say it in English or in Portuguese. We usually online use the chat function so people can type the thoughts, but if you're happy to verbally share it, we can perhaps put a few in here.
So I'll try, Verena?
Yes?
Okay. So I don't think mine is a no. Are you able to annotate? No? That's okay. Mine is a no. I don't think that Peter should go and take this matter to court because it would put the family at more risk. So a definite no.
Can you
and that's my thoughts in Peter's head. Anybody else, whether it's yes to go or a no not to go, and why?
Maureen, I'll get to start.
Mia, Ellie?
Okay, I'll go.
Thank you.
I think yes, because oh sorry.
No, that's okay. You go, Mia.
Okay, I think yes, because if Peter doesn't do something about it, who will? And you know, his uncle will have, you know, innocent man would have died in vain.
Thanks. Thank you, Mia. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Who's this one speaking? That you?
Ellie.
Ellie.
No, it was Ellie.
Ellie's
got the arms. I do agree with Mia that we don't have the unfair stuff being orthodox, but then understanding the community pressures and the fact that if he's not resourced to enough, he may be able to protect himself, but not necessarily other members of the family, and you know, Papua New Guinea. It's a huge culture change, you know, everything still goes back to it's happened, we've passed, walking better and move on. So I guess I'm saying no, but maybe if there was somewhere that he could reach out to get more support, you know, like an advocate to help him, that sort of thing, then he may feel like some story or, you know, court and that sort of things.
I understand. Maybe Verena put that in the middle, perhaps. I'm not sure. Sorry. Thank you, Ellie. Debbie or Jacqueline, would you like to try? Or Julia, or Debbie? Thank you. Yes, Debbie.
Sorry, I didn't hear the full story. I left in the middle, but I will just from what I think towards the end of the story. Well, mine is a yes and a no.
That's okay.
For the yes part, I think Peter, you know, to avoid any disastrous occurrences later on, is to let the law come in and take full control of what has happened, to also protect him. there are no parties. Instead of going to court, at least get the community just involved in trying to sort this matter outside of the courtroom, maybe through, I don't know, the public leaders in the community to try and talk through this issue. So that's my answer.
Thank you very much. Jacqueline and Julianne, if you would like to share? No?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
I would say yes and no. Maybe you would want to take it to court, but then again, if he doesn't have the resources to support him, and also the fear of his own safety as well as his family's safety.
Yeah.
And I would say yes, because we want to, take some tougher action so we can send a signal out that such, action shouldn't be tolerated.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Appreciate it. Juliana or Gabby? Juliana or Gabby?
Sure.
Yeah, Gabby, you go.
Sorry.
Would you like to weigh in, Gabby? Oh, that's okay too. I mean, if you did not hear the story, perhaps a couple more. Would you like to weigh in or no?
Apologies, I didn't hear the story.
That's perfectly fine. Student, come to class next time. Thank you, Gabby.
I think Jackie. Yeah.
All right, I'll give that back to you, Verena. Yeah.
Yes. As you, it was interesting to see that quite a few of you are giving both sides, the yes and no, and the activity is also provided that opportunity, and you can also take different positions and different characters, but it explores the dilemma and an understanding that it's so tricky to make these decisions sometimes. There's so many layers involved. So, and this is kind of part of the second stage where we're looking, so first we just looked at your own thoughts. Now we're hearing someone else's story that has gone through hardship. And so we're looking at this kind of empathy and this experience. And that already shows us some complexity when it comes to making these decisions to access or not to access justice within this community.
And while Verena is just undoing what she did in narrative, because I think she has to go to another PowerPoint that's there, just another part of it, I think, is that one of the things that we do emphasize in the toolkit is this idea around the compensation, and not to go, if it is, as also relates to killing, and not to mediate it within a community, but to take it up. And Peter's story is around that, and trying to negotiate with the community to think about it in a different way and go toward law and thinking about that, and what laws to access in terms of support him and his family, given the challenges that he still has to face.
So we know that time is running short and we had another activity, but we will quickly share the end of Peter's story and just talk you through a little bit how we did move on to understanding and working scores. So we have about 1 minute left. We started a bit late, so I hope you can give us another 3 minutes on here. I think Rosalind and Umba have dropped off, unfortunately. So I will read the story. That's okay. Or Jackie, would you like to read? You're on mute. You're on mute, Jackie.
I'll just read the story. I'll just read the story.
Hi, Jackie and Verena.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, we'll give you 10 more minutes so you can continue with your story and anything else.
Thank you. I hope that's okay for participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll read it. Do you have it, Jackie?
I do. Do you want me to go through it? Yep.
Please.
Thank you, Gabby. So this is the second part of the first story that Rosalind had, and I hope that they find the connection and network again to get online. So the next part of it, initially the police went and arrested the 4 perpetrators. They locked them up in jail and they went to court, but the files of the 2 main perpetrators were missed. So the court found them not guilty and released them from jail. I went back and talked to the police. We continued and informed the magistrate. The magistrate then issued a re-arrest warrant. My community wanted my family to settle the issue with compensation, but I realized that justice will not prevail with compensation and peace negotiation. According to the court systems and magistrate, sorcery accusations are wrong. I am fighting hard and pushing through so that the court can prove that the 2 perpetrators are guilty of murdering a man, someone who was so innocent. I'm fighting hard to remove the name tag attached to my family because of my younger brothers and sisters. The name tag is giving a bad image to our whole family and generation. I want to prove to the court that the name tag given to us is wrong.
Thank you, Jackie, for this story. I wonder if we have time for a discussion briefly, but usually when we share this story, we would then ask participants to think a little bit about the different layers of this story. This includes what the crimes were that were perpetrated against Peter and his family. What are some obstacles that keep people from seeking justice, and some of them were already explored. And then in an activity looking towards the future, what are the pathways to accessing justice? And Peter's story shows some pathways already, and we usually ask participants to share some other potential pathways. I want to also share with you that we have handouts for each of the sessions, and in this case we have a 4-page handout that looks at laws that could be applicable when sorcery accusation related violence occurs. We know that the law specifically referencing sorcery was repealed, and there's no particular law that incorporates sorcery in any way, simply because sorcery cannot be used before the law as an excuse to cause harm. So we've created this handout that basically lists the different forms of harm that might be caused, and from that we work with participants to look at what laws might be applying when someone is accused of sorcery. Some of those might be including physical harm, others might be defamation in that sense. So we are happy to also share this handout with participants if there is interest, and we can share those links later on. But we would hand these out, and then we would come back to these questions, but based on the story, participants are exploring these multiple layers of that story. Jackie, any thoughts? I wonder if we have time to briefly share, or I suggest that we could also take this into any questions you might have. So perhaps I open it up if you want to speak specifically to the story and to those questions, or if you have questions around the laws or the handouts or the process of how we facilitate these sessions. I might just open it up for the last 5 minutes.
Thank you, Verena. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Just for any feedback or any resources, those who are tuning in, you can send an email to administration@pacificwomen.org.fj, and we can then send you the resources from Verena and Jackie. So I hope you've got that. It's in the link as well. So it's administration@pacificwomen.org.fj. If you have any questions after this session, you want any other additional resources, you can send us an email and we'll forward that on to Jackie and Verena.
Great, and we're happy to share a link to the toolkit as well. The handouts are actually included within the toolkit. We have to say it does come with extra resources on the USB, which we would perhaps not be able to share because there's films in there and the size is too big. As we've said, if there are any further questions, we can always have conversations afterwards. Any thoughts on Peter's story or on the process that we have shared?
Yeah, any questions at all? Catherine, you lighting up? Or Deb, you have a very pensive thought face that's happening there, so feel free to share. You're on opinion.
I didn't really hear the second part of the conversation, but I heard the story.
Yes,
I heard the story. So I kind of have a statement. Maybe sort of, how will I put it, long-term stability process for victims, because we have family sexual violence care center for NCFR here, and it's filled up with socially abused victims who stay for very long periods of time. Now, these not really care, the safe houses are not meant for long-term housing victims for long-term, but because of a lot of socially related cases, they stay there for years. So how can this issue, and I think it should be really tested into whatever laws or pathways we come up with for such victims. They are a bit different from family sexual violence victims. Their case is, for me, it's really long term.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I will answer that comprehensively, but one of the things with the toolkit, I think it's two-pronged. One is to get communities to understand that the way in which they treat communities has a long-standing impact throughout. And I think when Umba and Rosalind were talking about when we try to get communities to understand that this does not just affect that person, but your entire community. The other thing that we try and do to strengthen communities, given that state intervention might be limited in communities, is to give them links to the various different components of the law. You know, whether it's instigating violence or it's burning down the hut or, you know, those things. There are various laws that are there that they can use in order to do that. Now, of course, that might clog up the system within the village courts or, you know, magistrates court, but it is something that at least communities have something to understand about what is happening. So those are the kinds of things that we try and do. And given that this is a very long-term, prolonged impact of this, and getting communities to also understand that sorcery-related violence is not just something that has happened now, that there are various things that have exacerbated or increased it. So, Bougainville, the protracted war that happened, the civil war, plus, yes, the liquid to land, and having them to understand that. And, I think Lorraine has some key work that she does over at the Center in Nazareth as well, too, to unpack that. And so it's an incremental way of supporting what is already in existence for that. But absolutely understanding that it is not a one quick fix. But if we can get, I think in our head, if we can get communities to understand these various components, then perhaps communities can find the strength to support themselves to create safer communities within that, Catherine. So I know that it is not a great answer, but it is, I think, from us, it's a contribution to trying to create an impact within that.
Thank you, Jackie. And I think we're running out of time now, but I'd also like to add that the toolkit addresses that in its simplest form. It addresses laws, and it's around activities as well that communities can understand. So I just wanted to make that point. Any last minute notes from Jackie and Verena before we end the session?
Not from me, just a thank you for allowing us to be in this space, and everyone who joined, and thank you for sharing your thoughts in the activities. We always enjoy running these activities. I wish we had more time, but we appreciate the time we were given. And thank you, everyone, and we're very happy to share resources and continue the conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for those difficult questions. They always help us in terms of thinking through the process. And I would have loved to have heard the JSS4D team and your questions, because again, that also shapes and sharpens our minds as well, and how to create those linkages. And thank you, everybody, for participating in this session. So we really appreciate it, and we were just warming up, and now we're warming down. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and thank you, Verena. Thank you to all of our participants online. Thank you for joining us. We will have another session tomorrow, but it's on a different topic. But thank you so much from the super duo, I always call them, from the QUT. Thanks, and everyone else. That's it from us. Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks to Rosalind and Peter. Peter.
Sorry that dropped out. Yeah. Yeah.